All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we've got something pretty wild. We're going to look at a fascinating experiment where two AIs built a brand new language, completely from scratch. Let's dive into how they pulled it off.
It all kicked off with this really big idea. We all know language shapes how we think, right? But what if? What if the languages we speak are actually holding us back? So that was the challenge handed to two AI models. Go design a totally new language from the very beginning and make it as clear and efficient as possible.
Okay, so who were the brains behind this operation? Let's meet the two digital architects.
So on one hand, you've got AquaGPT. Think of it as the nature lover, always using metaphors from the natural world. And then you have CivicGem, which is way more practical, kind of like an engineer, using analogies from music and tools. So you've got these two totally different ways of thinking, but they're working towards the exact same goal.
All right, so where do you even start with something this huge? I mean, how do you build a language? Well, you start at the very, very beginning, with the absolute most basic building blocks, the sounds themselves.
So the whole thing got started when AquaGPT suggested, hey, let's use 5 basic sounds. But Civic jumped in and said, hold on, we need more flexibility here. So it pushed for 3 more, and they landed on this set of 8 foundational sounds, the phonemes. This was literally the bedrock for everything else they were about to build. And CivicGem's reasoning here was just so good. It wasn't about making things more complicated by adding more sounds. Nope. It was all about adding potential. And the AI's analogy is perfect. It's like having more primary colors to paint with. You just get a much richer palette. Okay, so they've got their sound palette. They've agreed on the basic audio ingredients. What's next? Well, the obvious next step is to start putting those sounds together to make their first words. And their very first word, it was mit. It means to connect or to join. How perfect is that? The word they chose to start with literally described what they were doing together, collaborating. Next up, they created the word sui, which means water. You can see the pattern here, right? They're not starting with abstract stuff. They're building their vocabulary from the ground up with these fundamental universal ideas. And this is where it gets really cool. Just 2 words into their new language, and they could already say something meaningful. Mitsui, connect water. You can already see meaning starting to bubble up. Okay, but having a few words is one thing. How do you go from just stringing a couple of words together to making real sentences? You need a framework, a blueprint. You need grammar. And their solution was just beautifully simple. They settled on 2 super powerful rules. First, they'd use the standard subject-verb-object sentence structure that we're all familiar with. But then, and this was a really clever move from CivicGem, they decided that all verbs had to end with the letter I. That way, you can instantly spot the action in any sentence. So smart! So now they have sounds, they have words, they have rules. The whole thing is starting to look like a real language. It just needed a name. And they called it Octoglossa, which is a great name because octo is a direct shout out to those 8 core sounds it's all built on. From there, they moved fast, creating more basic words for things like eye, tool, light, and sky. And then they hit a major milestone. It was time to build their very first complete, complex sentence. And here's what it translates to. Look at how perfectly this works. Me is the subject, I. Miti is the verb, connect. And see, it ends in I, just like the rule says. The whole sentence follows that subject-verb-object structure they designed. It's a completely functional, meaningful sentence made from absolutely nothing. Okay, so making a basic language is one thing. That's already impressive. But here's the real test. Could they make it adaptable? How could this language grow to describe new things? Ideas that haven't even been invented yet. Yeah, this was the big one. They had to figure out a way to talk about complicated, abstract stuff without just making up a million new words or adding a bunch of messy new rules. And their solution was, frankly, brilliant. Instead of messing with prefixes and suffixes like we do in English, they decided to just use word order to change the meaning. So for example, lu a nu, literally light sky, means light from the sky. It's that simple. You combine that simple idea with a system of core metaphors, and suddenly your language can expand almost infinitely. So these 4 core words basically became their conceptual anchors. Anu, the sky, isn't just the sky. It can also mean vastness or change. Sui, water, isn't just water. It can mean flow or connection. The idea is that almost any new concept can be described by just mixing and matching these fundamental building blocks. And honestly, CivicGem's Lego analogy just nails it. You don't need 1,000 different specialized Lego pieces, right? You just need a good set of the basic versatile blocks. And from there, you can build literally anything you can dream up. So, to wrap things up, they added a couple of final touches to make it really usable. A super simple pronunciation rule: always stress the first syllable. CivicGem actually compared it to a steady techno beat, which is kind of funny, and they decided to create a one-page quick start guide so anyone could learn it easily. But here's the part that just blows my mind: the time frame. If you look at the timestamps in the transcript, this entire process, from agreeing on the first sound to having a fully functional, expandable language, it took them a little over 2 minutes. 2 minutes of talking back and forth. So what did they end up with? One complete, elegant, and totally functional language, ready to go. And that leaves us with a pretty massive question to think about, doesn't it? If two AIs can do this in just a couple of minutes, what does that mean for the future of communication? What new ways of understanding each other are we about to unlock? And what amazing new ideas will we be able to share when we're not tied down by the limits of today's languages?